Hey guys, it's Will.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome to First Watch, the show that's part review, part reaction. Double Dragon. Maybe you've heard of this movie. This was released in 1993. This is the MVD Rewind collection. So if you're unfamiliar, we did a review of... We did Nemesis?
We did Nemesis,
right? And
yeah.
Showdown.
We did Showdown and a couple other movies.
They put out like basically movies that if you were a kid in the 80s and early 90s and you were watching like whatever VHS tapes you found lying around, or like you would go to the store and be like, as an 8-year-old, like that movie looks fucking awesome. Like those are the types of movies they put out. They're actually, I'm really fucking excited because, and it's actually good that we have Jim here because really soon they're putting out Double Impact, which is one of my favorite Van Damme movies, which we made Jim watch for a podcast episode, and he was just enraged. And everything he described about why he hated the movie was why I loved the movie.
It's a great movie.
So I was getting so excited when he was talking about it.
It's an awesome movie. Don't let anyone hate that.
We should have. So Double Dragon, so you're watching the 80s Nerdgasm channel on Instagram right now, and this is a 90s movie. This came out in, I think, 93 or 94. Yeah. But this movie really is like, if you took every, like, kind of genre trend of the 80s, like the kind of Escape from New York, like Warriors type dystopian urban environment, like the gangs, or like the graffiti of those movies, like everything is covered in graffiti and everything is derelict and falling apart. And then you took like the kind of like kid gang, Karate Kid, like teenagers solving mysteries, like Spielberg type thing.
That's
and
all
then
in there.
You have
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick plays this guy, and it has like the world has been destroyed type trope too that you see in like Escape from New York again, like a lot of those movies where like the physical landscape has been altered. And so actually a movie that this kind of calls to mind for me is Demolition Man, except the Demolition Man is obviously like a RoboCop style satire, and this is like they kind of accidentally made one of the most hilarious movies ever.
I think basically LA gets like separated from the rest of California.
Where there's a flood or something. Like it's kind of like Escape from LA if you've seen that.
And they're kind of stuck there, and like the gangs have all taken over, and they've kind of worked out a deal with the cops where they'll like chill during the day, and the cops won't come after them at night. So they have this partnership going. The gangs can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and it almost kind of reminds me of too. Did we talk about Ninja Turtles when we watched this? Like it kind of feels like the Ninja Turtle movies with like the Foot Clan and stuff like that. Yeah, it feels
a lot like that. And it feels a lot like that with the production value and like some of the other stuff going on.
And there's like this underground group of... So Alyssa Milano is in this movie. And she leads this like gang of kids who... And they're more 90s. Like their aesthetic is more like early 90s hip-hop kind of. Like this was like around the time that Wu-Tang and Biggie and Tupac and like all that stuff was big. And there's this kind of like early 90s hip-hop aesthetic. But like the Vanilla Ice version, I think. Yeah. More than like the Wu-Tang version.
And it's just a bunch of kids who have nowhere to go. So they all
they're trying to make like... But they're trying to make the city safer by like fighting the criminals or something, but that reminded me a lot of the Ninja Turtles because they're like underground in a hideout, like eating pizza, playing hacky sack, be like, bro.
Yeah, that's exactly like
so the plot is Robert Patrick, who it's really funny. There's actually some interviews you can read with him where he's like, on paper it sounded like it sounds like a great movie. So if you don't know the reputation of this movie, it has like a 3.5 on IMDb, like that, and it's on several lists of the worst video game adaptation movies ever. And a lot of people think
they're probably not wrong, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, when I go into a movie like this, I'm not like, oh, fuck, we're going to watch Apocalypse Now, but it has ninjas in it. I'm like, this will be a really fun trash movie, and that's exactly what it is.
What about the one character who like gets injected with this like serum and becomes this like hulking like monstrosity, but then he becomes a good guy?
But then they're force feeding him kale.
Yeah, like they're.
But he's basically like Super Shredder, right? Stupid, he's like this big evil guy. He's almost like the Vernon Wells character from Road Warrior.
Like a good guy,
and he becomes all he's like a fucking slug
he's like their
or something.
buddy at the end, and it's so silly. And
but this is like the kind of movie that I think the director said something like, I wanted to take a lot of the things that you see in these like more adult type movies and then aim it more at kids so that families could see it and enjoy it. And it really is a kind of movie where you're like, oh, a 6-year-old fucking loves this movie. But the 6-year-old's parents would probably be like, okay, when's this movie going to end? So the plot is that there's a medallion, right? And it's split in half. And it makes you invincible body, invincible soul, right? And Robert Patrick gets the invincible soul part of it. But Scott Baio, who plays one of the two Double Dragons. The other one is Mark Dacascos.
Scott Wolf? Scott Baio's not in this movie.
Wait, who's Scott Baio?
Scott Baio's an actor, but he's not in this movie.
I think I said that because I was thinking of Scott Beowulf. So if you put the two of them, together, you get Scott Beowulf. Scott Wolf is in this movie.
Yeah, Scott Wolf.
I know who Scott Baio is. Yeah, my bad. So Scott Wolf and a guy who's a different race are twin brothers.
Mark Dacascos.
And they have the invincible. They
don't know how to use it though.
But they don't know what it is. Their parents gave it to them, and there's like a mysterious woman who comes in and befriends them and is trying to help them fight the Robert Patrick character. And eventually they figure out what it is, and they whoop the shit out of everyone, and everyone's happy in the end. And there's a boat chase, if I remember correctly.
Like the boat chase was cool, and some of the fights were okay.
But there's this total Ninja Turtles vibe where like.
Yeah. It's like a kid's movie.
I'll keep wanting to say Scott Baio. Scott Wolf will like kick someone, and then his brother will come over, and they'll be like, "Yeah!"
They'll be
and
so
then they
excited.
go on to their next
little adventure.
while they're being chased by these gangs with
like 50 gang members with pipes and shit. And they're like,
But I mean, if you're someone who really enjoys the pleasure of bad movies and like just making some popcorn and drinking some beer.
You'll like it.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say you'd like it. I say you owe it to yourself to see this movie. I feel like this movie appeals to like the kind of people who like collect VHS,
or the kind of people who like to like talk during a film and just like trash it.
There's also those types of people.
Or I guess if you're just a giant fan of Double Dragon the game or whatever else it was, then I
think that if you grew up like I think that because when this movie came out I was like maybe 11.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a little bit older than the target audience. But I think if you were like a small kid in like the early 90s, you would see this movie and like have these waves of nostalgia, like what the people are wearing, who's in it. Like,
if I saw this when it came out, I would have loved it because I would have been like 7 or 8 at the time. And this is obviously who I would say under 13-year-olds is probably who it's mainly geared to. Because I imagine teenagers wouldn't be into it, and then adults would watch it for like nostalgia value or.
Although if you were one of those kids who was watching Predator when you were 9, this was probably not really your cup of tea either because it's not really that violent. But it's really interesting to watch now and to see like what is this movie? What were they trying to do? Like what's happening right now?
I've seen worse films, so there's that.
Well, there's always Deathstalker.
Deathstalker's amazing. All right, but check it out. I mean. It's a fun movie to watch on a Friday night, so check it out.
You could do a double feature, this and Showdown. Showdown is a lot better than this movie.
Yeah.
I actually really like Showdown. Go watch our episode on Showdown if you haven't. So Double Dragon, like I said, this is the MVD Rewind Collection. They're putting out Double Impact soon, so look out for that too, which also has 2 dudes doing martial arts in it.
Played by one guy?
Yeah, so there you go. Alyssa Milano's in it, Mark Dacascos, Scott Beowulf.
All right, see you guys.